Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Workplace Scientifics YouTube channel. I'm Dave Lombardi, your host for this video. And today I want to give you a very brief, quick overview around chemical exposure. What am I getting at there, guys? Chemical exposure sounds very sciencey, doesn't it? Well, I'm talking about those substances or those chemicals that you find in the workplace. You might work with them day in, day out. They may be present as part of a process. It might be something you handle like a dust or a powder. It might be the solvents or what's called the solvent-based liquids that you use in your paint operations or the wood dust, whatever it might be. The reason I want to focus on that today is to give you a bit of information around ultimately what we need to do around it, because it's critical to understand what that exposure scenario looks like. You've heard me talk about in previous videos around it's very, very important we understand what the exposure is for our workers, and we quantify it, we've identified it, we quantify it, and then of course we control it. So this video, ladies and gents, just a little bit more information around how to identify it, what you're looking for, and ultimately why you need to be conducting an assessment, which just so happens, of course, is something that we do. It's one of our main services undertaking exposure monitoring to chemical agents. So again, we can talk about that later. So the first thing I'd like to mention is when we talk about chemical agents, certainly hazardous substances in the workplace, again, that's probably the term you've maybe heard mainly. Those hazardous substances in the workplace, we are talking about all the substances that come under the COSHH regulations, so Control of Substances Hazardous Health regulations. It's also the substances that come under the Control of Lead at Work regulations, of course, lead. Lead is so significant, by the way. It doesn't come under COSHH, it comes under its own set of regulations, as does asbestos. I'm sure you've all come across asbestos fibres and the concerns around those. So again, likewise, it's under its own set of regulations. So from a chemical hazard point of view, we've got three sets of regulations we can look at and we need to adhere to, of course, because that's what the HSE expects us to do. So what am I talking about then? Let's talk, generally speaking, about hazardous substances. Well, it could be a chemical that is present either as a solid, as a liquid, or in gaseous form. It could be a vapor, such as a solvent vapor. And understanding how it's present in the workplace, whether it be as part of a process or a raw material, is massively important, because that gives an indication of how our employees may be exposed to that substance, in what quantity, usually what we refer to as the concentration, as well as how long they're exposed to it, i.e. the duration. Now bear in mind that duration, it might be a few hours during a working day, it might be several days during a week, it might be several weeks. I'm sure you get the picture. So I want to understand what that looks like. What is that level of exposure? And of course, that key question, as I've just mentioned, comes down to what is it made up of? Is it a solid, a solid powder, for example? Is it a gaseous form of an irritant gas, perhaps? Solvent vapors, that kind of thing. Is it a liquid material? These are the questions you need to understand. Linking alongside that, again, I'm not going to go into massive detail here, ladies and gents. We'll do this in another conversation. But linking alongside that, we also need to look at the toxicity of a substance. What am I getting around the toxicity? Well, ultimately, it's a understanding, an evaluation of how toxic that substance might be, i.e. what harm can it cause to the human body and to what degree. Now, some of you may already know, as well as, of course, being involved in this consultancy, one of the things we also do is we provide the professional training as well. And when I do the professional training, I talk about the top 5. So, little snippet for you, something to be mindful of as you're doing your research around what substances and chemicals you've got in your workplace. Please make sure you answer the following questions. Is it a carcinogen, i.e. it's able to cause cancer in the human body? Is it a mutagen, i.e. it's able to cause a change at a cellular level within the body? Is it a reprotoxic, i.e. it causes problems with the reproductive systems of both men and women? Is it a teratogen, sometimes also called a developmental toxicant? What does that mean if you've not come across that before? It ultimately means it causes problems with the unborn child. And then finally, the 5th one, is it a sensitizing agent? What do I mean by a sensitizing agent? It might not be something you've come across beforehand, but I'm sure you've all probably come across the term occupational asthma. When we talk about occupational asthma, that's a form of respiratory sensitization. So they're your top 5, ladies and gents. Identify, are those substances capable of one of those 5? If they are, they're a very, very serious and significant substance, and we should be looking to do something about it. Of course, the aim is to control that exposure, but before we can control it, we must quantify it, i.e. within your survey. Again, we can talk you through that if you want to have a conversation around it, and I'm sure in future videos we'll talk more into that as well, in the depth of what we do. Evidently, though, first and foremost, we need to identify. You've all heard me talk about that in a previous conversation. Identify, quantify, and control. So we need to identify it first. So not only do we need to understand how is it presented in the workplace in terms of its form, understand its toxicity, i.e. what's it capable of doing, understanding the duration of exposure as well, and ultimately understand how a person, again, think about the general risk assessment approach, how is a person actually exposed? What is the scenario? Now, hopefully you've got a good feel, good understanding what your processes are. If you need support around that and a bit more guidance on actually how to identify the specific issues, specific problems, again, please get in touch. Don't hesitate to get in touch. Our details are very much in the below this video in the comment section, so please give us a shout. So as I say, that's a bit of an overview, but that's actually the sciencey bit. There's something else at play here as well, because bear in mind, as some of you already know, when we come to control exposure, we talk about the hierarchy of control. So elimination, substitution, engineering, administrative controls, and of course PPE. And one of the common things around this, one of the common problems, is the further down that hierarchy, not only is it a case you need more elements of it, but actually the further down you go, the more reliance you've got on human behavior. So linking back to what I've just mentioned, yes, we need to know the toxicity. Yes, we need to understand the exposure scenario, duration, the form of that substance, everything we've just talked about. We also need to incorporate a massive provision of information, instruction, and training for those employees that are going to be working with those substances to make sure they understand what they are, what are the health effects, how they need to handle them, what they need to do in an emergency situation. Where there's control measures in place, such as LEV systems, we need to understand, or should I say they need to understand, how to use them, why they're there, how to report any problems. Same when it comes to PPE, whether it be respirators, be it gloves, overalls. Again, the employee should be well versed in how to wear them, when to wear them, and what to look out for in terms of damage or when they need to change it. So just a quick flying overview there, ladies and gentlemen. I hope it's been useful for you. If you need to know more, want to know more, please get in touch. Again, our details are below. Please like the video. Of course, please, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Look forward to seeing you soon.